been away for a little bit, just seeing what's around, what's in the news, what's happening in this crazy, insane world, the new normal, what the fuck is going on out there. And the thing that sticks out to me right now is Andrew Tate. And he's obviously blown up all over TikTok and Instagram and social media. And you know what? Andrew Tate is fucking hilarious, right? Andrew Tate is hilarious at an arm's distance if you do not take in his bullshit. Like, there's always been this hubbub about him and his fucking... I can only describe him as hyper-masculine, right? He is just this hyper-masculine, ultra-success-focused, dopamine-addicted individual that's espousing, you know, just a whole bunch of red pill bullshit, right? And if you don't know what the red pill is, red pilling is this internet term. I think it was coined on Reddit or something like that. It's really this like skeptical type of wokeness that I think comes from a very wounded masculine place, right? Being red pilled essentially means that you've got this cynical view of the world, seeing the Matrix. This is where I came from, right? The Matrix, and taking the red pill and going down the rabbit hole and all that sort of shit. And just being cynical about society's inherent structures and systems, as we should be, right? Because they haven't really served the majority of the people for quite some time. But there's definitely this perspective on red pilling that comes from the disenfranchised male and the disenfranchised masculine, right? And that particularly comes from, you know, things like the incels, the basement dwellers. You know, there's this degree of misogyny. There is this degree of hurt, right? There's definitely a collective of individuals that have essentially been rejected by society. And that's what happens. It's generational, right? Andrew Tate to me is Gen Z's Ziz, right? Just this hyper-masculine individual, super focused on one particular aspect of masculinity. For Ziz, it's about getting juiced and being shredded at all costs, and it cost him his life. And Andrew Tate is really all about, you know, I think he's probably a bit more diverse than Ziz, now that I think about it, right? Because he does show off the fact that he's a multifaceted individual, that he's fit, he's a fighter, he's a businessman. Apparently he's got a shitload of wives. So, you know, again, just this trope of material success, right? And that's the problem, is that the disenfranchised youth, particularly the males that invest into people like Ziz and Andrew Tate, and any, you know, sort of bro-esque sort of figure that we have in society, is that they are trying to address the internal lack of direction and understanding and just acknowledgement, you know, of that feeling of less than that's inherent in a lot of males' lives, right? And that's a broader societal problem with a lack of healthy masculine examples in the world, in society in general. I mean, who would be the positive male role models in society at the moment that are inherently famous, successful, wealthy, that sort of thing? The Rock, maybe? You know, he's a family man. He's got his brands. He's serving his people, his culture. It kind of used to be Schwarzenegger back in the day, but you could probably argue that point. Like, who are the good dudes in society? Who are the men that we look up to? I mean, super wealthy people like Bezos and Musk are criticized for being billionaires, but what they've done is something that's inherently positive for the world. And then there is this degree of envy that comes from those that have that lack within themselves to make it easier to criticize the people that have things and try and tear them down societally and socially. So that's what, that's the problem at the broader sense of why Andrew Tate is popular. He is a symptom of the broader disease. And it's until we get better individuals out there that can showcase more holistic and more fulfilling values in the masculine, we're going to keep having this problem societally and generationally, I think. And that's the problem, is that where are all the good men? Where are they? And what are the good values that we should be eschewing to our youth? I mean, that's part of why I do this podcast, is because I had the same lack of values, of fulfillment. I was a disenfranchised male youth as well. And it wasn't until I filled my own cup and learned how to find that fulfillment and search for that fulfillment internally, but I had to do that out of my own nous. And I understand that inherently there are others that are not as privileged as I am to chase those ideas and just fulfill and self-fulfill and really scratch that itch and search for that internally as opposed to externally. What do we do about Tate? What do we do about Andrew Tate? First of all, you shouldn't censor him. The fact that we have gotten rid of him on social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, whatever it is, it's a terrible idea. Cancel culture does not work. There is duality to all things, right? Whatever you deny to people, it creates more tension for them to acquire it. That's the way it's always worked. You create this tension and people get attracted to it, right? Think about the Prohibition era with alcohol. It didn't work. People found a way to drink. Think about the war on drugs. Hasn't worked. 30 years ago, we were trying to minimize drugs at all costs. Now we've come to realize with the counterculture that it's actually inherently useful for you if used in secure medical settings. Right? So if you've got these believers who are looking up to Tate and then you deny the people what they want, which is to access him in a public forum, then you're just going to create more resistance to the norm. And you're probably just going to create and just deepen this polarizing nature of cancel culture versus woke culture versus the right versus the left. And that it hasn't worked. It just has not worked. Societally, the pendulum is swinging back from political correctness to not so political correctness, right? And I, for one, welcome that, because for the most part, it creates unnecessary tension in the environment. And what I mean by that is, I think I've said this before in the podcast, is like when I make jokes about race, about, something that can be heavy-handed, it always creates tension, right? But white people feel the most tension when I make racially based jokes. Why? Because their white guilt kicks in. And that's really the majority of political correctness. It's been formulated by the extreme left and then bandied and reinforced by the less extreme left because of wanting to align to the ideals of what they expect society expects them to be, right? To be liberal, good individuals. Oh, I'm good, therefore I must think these things and I must not say these things about individuals or races or cultures and that sort of thing. But again, that just creates the distance between all of us, It creates the black and white, right? Instead of the billion shades of grey in between. So, yeah, silencing people has not worked, and it will continue to not work. What you do is you let people have access to these sorts of ideals because they're going to find it anyway, and you're just going to create resistance if you don't. But you've got to replace what's going on and what they desire with something that's more valuable and more meaningful to their lives. Again, positive role models, listening to these disenfranchised men and youths about why they feel the need to align their value systems and their beliefs and their identity to someone like Tate. Right? I thoroughly believe that healing the hurt masculine in this world will create a significant amount of change for the better. Because as I work on my own wounded masculine and have so for the last couple of years, it gives me a more newfound appreciation for the feminine, for the world around me. I blame the outside world less for my problems, and I start to focus on me and what I can improve in myself. And that's self-fulfilling. And that'll keep going, right? Men need direction. We are directional people. The divine masculine is consciousness, is drive, is direction. That is the highest form of the masculine ideal. That's why we carve ourselves into the sharpened, strong, masculine individual, right? And that's what the real depth societally is what Andrew creates, is that he goes, hey, go in this direction, right? That was a terrible Andrew Tate, but fuck. He's got a weird angle. He's got a weird accent, but whatever. Good for him. Yeah, that's what Andrew Tate is. He's just he's an example, and he's on the same vibrational frequency as the hurt masculine. So how do we solve that? Well, you put a better example in, or you address what the hurt is. And that's painful, that's troublesome, and it's really, really challenging, right? Because you've got to get past that really hurt, fragile, masculine ego to get through to the individual that actually wants to look at themselves and sort their own shit out in a healthy, positive way, as opposed to, band-aiding the trauma and the lack of self-esteem with the superficial, with the material, with these ideas of success. So it's going to be a challenge, right? Changing societal values, ideologies takes a long time. It's often generational. So are we going to fix these sorts of things overnight? No. But, at least we can put into perpetual motion and start the trajectory of healthier masculine examples early on in life, giving men direction, giving men a value system, letting them know how to formulate themselves, and to really, perpetuate a better perspective on the masculine and its world, right? Things like, the man cave, which are teaching, youths to be, to be in touch with their emotions and address who they are as individuals, and to create community through bonding with men in a healthy way. Men need competition, they need drive, but they also need connection. But we, unfortunately, generations of hard men and hard times. Yeah, we talk about hard men, good times, soft men, bad times. A lot of the bad times are from the hard exterior of the masculine and the soft, unaddressed interior of the masculine, addressing problems with our own emotions and learning how to self-regulate those sorts of things. And things like even just embracing feminine elements of ourselves without judgment, right? So again, that's a long-term societal shift. How do we fix it? Again, time, examples, and reinforcing positive examples. I just said examples twice. That's how I know I'm running out of information on this topic. But hey, Andrew Tate, weird dude, a symptom of a broader problem within society, I think. Also, here's the thing, last minute thought. You can tell that Andrew Tate is, never trust a guy that always has to wear sunglasses in public, because the eyes are the window to the soul, right? And in reality, the eyes are actually an extended part of the brain. So the eyes are actually connected via the optical nerve in the eyeball directly to the brain itself. It's basically, according to Dr. Andrew Huberman, an external form of the brain. So, I think it's somewhere up to 40% of our sensory information and of the cognitive load in our brains is linked directly to our eyes. And we'll go into some more interesting facts around that in a different ep, talking about why having focus and vision is paramount, and why things like TikTok and the pokies are similar in that they create that addictive perspective. Mostly it's just about reinforcing optical cues. I basically just told you most of it then. But hey, we'll expand on it on a different ep. But anyway, Andrew Tate, fucking hilarious. At an arm's distance. Don't take him seriously. But you know what? He's got some points.